Welcome to the FMCG Guys, the podcast that dives into the innovation, strategy, and trends shaping consumer goods and retail in Europe and beyond.
Welcome to the FMCG Guys podcast. This is Daniel Torres here, live from Medley's
Hot Stuff Archives.
Hot Stuff Archive. Here we go. So I'm here in London visiting Medley, and we just walked around his Hot Stuff Archive or Rolling Stones Museum. You can find the content of that on YouTube, probably on Instagram as well. We've recorded some stuff, but now we're going to talk a bit about retail media, but also a bit about the Rolling Stones. So.
And the intersection of the two.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me a bit about like your story with the Rolling Stones.
It actually started, it's connected again to my career history. Obviously, and when you start out in marketing and you live in London, I wasn't particularly well paid, not through any fault of my previous employer, but the profession and marketing is a desirable thing to get into. And I was renting a room in a shared house, and I kind of wanted to have entertainment to do, but entertainment costs money. But buying a Sharpie pen for 99p and going out onto the streets of London was free. It's like, so for me it was like fishing, but I didn't have to buy a rod and the rights and
So what did you do?
I used to go out with a pen and an album and try and get autographs.
But not only from the Rolling Stones.
Only from the Rolling Stones.
Only from the Rolling Stones.
So I became very, very good because I completely specialised. And then I guess linked into like understanding about absolutely specialising.
Okay.
You can
what
better.
What was it of the Rolling Stones that you liked more than, like, I don't know, the Beatles or other bands?
I'd seen them in '95, so they were relevant to me, and I respect the Beatles music. Playing. I like the Beatles music, but I can't go see the Beatles. I've never been in my lifetime. That's never been possible. So I was able to see the Rolling Stones. I was like, wow, they're amazing. I then realized that probably half my 10 CDs that I had were Rolling Stones. The first 10 I got, and so I then started to join an internet news group in the mid '90s, and had a few hundred members, and other people that were much more knowledgeable about Stones than I, and I learned more, and I met people that had money but not time, and I was a student or then started my first job, and I had time but not money, so I would find things for them, and then they were really generous and would go, oh, find this me and I'll give you this CD, and I'll help you out. I've got 10 of this poster.
Like, find what?
Yeah, I found rare stuff.
So that was like your first.
Yeah,
partly your first job. Well, your first side job, no?
I'd find rare stuff, and they would pay me in spare stuff.
What was your actual badly paid job?
Well, I was loading data at the time, so I got a graduate position at Dunnhumby, and I was responsible for loading the Tesco Island and the Tesco data, and building the 10% sample, and then while targeting the coupons and things like that. So, and then the opportunity to work in, build the media capability came about, and I was the first person selling targeted opportunities for brands in to start with the kids club, and then
what did that mean?
So we were selling opportunity to reach the Tesco customers with targeted offers, where previously we'd done things like category conditional spend. That's a coupon where you say save £1 when you spend £5 on cheese.
Yeah.
I was like, well, why don't we get Cathedral City to give us the pound? And that's
Cathedral City.
They're a cheese band.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so they'll pay the pound because we have 13 million active customers.
Yeah.
The amazing thing about Tesco coupons at the time is that the average coupon only went to 130,000. The average. So on average, we were only targeting 1% of customers with each offer. Mm-hmm. So if you were, had 5 kids that all played sports, so you bought an awful lot of laundry detergents, mm-hmm. You would get the save £2 when you spend, when you buy a pack of Ariel.
Yeah.
And so traditionally it would have been save £2 when you buy laundry, but Ariel obviously has a very high value.
And wasn't brand based before.
It wasn't brand based initially, and so we built the capability to to target brand level coupons, which obviously had a dual effect of saving Tesco a fortune because they didn't have to fund the discount, but also allowing brands to target high value category customers. They weren't allowed to just competitively target it.
Yeah. And that was in 1990.
And actually, but a lot of the brands learned that it's actually a lot easier to get someone to buy another flavour of your yogurt, or to get you into the bigger pot, or to work across your range, than it is actually to use a coupon. If they haven't bought the half price in-store offer, then they're not going to redeem the 25% off coupon. So,
but at that time, how did this family see that they were getting an offer?
they had it in two ways. They had it in a club card statement, actually three. In the club card statement, which is the quarterly mailing, which sort of turned your points into pounds. So you'd get a penny for every point. So the sort of median value was about 10 quid customers used to get. So we used to have 97% redemption of the £10. And basically you're getting free cash, spend anything you want.
Yeah.
And then we'd have 6 coupons. But we'd make sure that some were super relevant, things they definitely bought. And then we'd push our luck a bit to say, we think you might like this. Like we got a new organic yogurt out, and you buy a lot of organic product, and so here's a half price pot of Rachel's organic yogurt.
But it was all like it wasn't digital at all.
No, it was all printed. But we had over 10 million different mailings, different combinations to the 13 million customers. So nearly every statement was unique.
And how were these decided?
That was what we decided.
Automatically,
you'd iterate it, so it was quite difficult. Because what you'd kind of go, give me only people that spend over £10 a month on cheese, and you go, I've only got 78,000.
Yeah.
Cathedral City are happy to target 200,000. So you'd go, okay, how much would bring it down to £8.50? And you go, I've got 210,000. You go, is that? And then we go, right, just give us any 200,000 of those 210. So you try to kind of, but at the time it was, you'd have to run.
Do you think it's easier to do now?
Oh, much easier, because it's all automated. And
Yeah.
And also the creation of the control groups to evaluate it, I think is much easier.
And how long were you at dunnhumby?
9 years.
9 years. And what were you doing like when you left?
So I was the sales director of the media estate.
Oh.
So I built the team, and we'd integrated everything. So we'd actually 2P'd, which is UK employment law, TUPE, it means transfer undertaking for protection of employment. So we 2P'd the magazine and .com team into dunnhumby, that we were selling those channels, and we were showing that. So we'd done a pilot with 4 clients to show Tesco that if brands could access this in one place, versus buying their trolleys, buying their milk media, buying their digital, buying their their in-store, buying their radio, buying their posters, that's kind of difficult and confusing. And then there's also, and every media owner is going to say theirs is the best.
Yeah.
Whereas actually when you put it and say, well, what's best for this particular thing? It's a new product. What do I do? How do I?
And was dunnhumby part of Tesco then?
Yes, it'd been bought. Well, dunnhumby, Tesco had a majority stake. That's what enabled dunnhumby to handle that level of data. So they'd taken a majority stake to allow that to be used for brands.
Got it. And what led you to leave?
We disagreed, should I say? That's a nice way of putting it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fine. I think this agreement is underrated, to be honest.
We had an alternate view of where the growth was and what the potential of
you and the owners, or you and the management.
No, the management. Yeah, they thought back then that agencies were the answer, and we were billing tens of millions of pounds direct to brands.
Yeah,
and we had tried to sell to the agencies, but retailers don't pay commission on media. Agencies are used to spending. At the time media was much more consolidated. It was pre the massive explosion of even the internet. So these media agencies were spending a few million quid on a outdoor campaign, or a few million quid on a TV campaign.
Yeah,
the concept of doing in-store audio ad and a barker and a kind of image on the retailer's website and the category page, or sponsoring the search term, or whatever, the kit that we had at the time, which was quite basic. They weren't interested in doing that. So we thought there was an opportunity to be a media agency that understood that and worked on behalf of brands. We also saw that the retailer was increasingly using it. I hate to say it, but it's been said a million times before, as a bit of a tax. They didn't really care as long as they kept spending money. They didn't really care about the performance of the brand. And we had learned when we were doing the coupons, we obsessed. We used to compete with each other to target our coupons better to get a better redemption rate. That was we took real pride,
like ownership,
brilliant work for clients, and that made it fun and exciting. And I love just doing a brilliant job. And so when we founded Capture, Joel Hopwood and myself, with £1,000 in my spare bedroom. He was living in it, and he had to move out so we could start the company. And we had this. It was a tiny room that we couldn't both fake on the phone at the same time. But our founding principle was really simple. It was to make retail media an investment choice for brands. And if you make retail media an investment choice for brands, there's two key words in there: investment and choice. Investment meaning you want a return. Choice being, hey, you've got loads of other things you could do. This is better be a good return. You want to choose this. So we knew that it could be really powerful. We've done this work for Cadbury, and we've helped launch Trident, the chewing gum in the UK, and we'd spent £100,000 in across the Tesco estate, and we got 48% more trial and 39% more repeat. I've got a very weird memory for specific numbers. I can remember coupon redemption rates from 2000.
Wow, that's good. I don't know if it's, but is it useful to remember these numbers?
Yes and no, because so they used to call me Human Dill at dunnhumby, because Dill was dunnhumby Interactive Library. So people would say to me, how many bottles of ketchup do they sell in Northern Ireland in a 3-week period?
And you'd remember? And
I would but I wouldn't remember, but I would know that it was more than brown sauce, but less than milk. And
so
I could figure out.
You could figure the pattern, no?
Yeah, and so I'd typically be right within 10%.
Was it difficult to get the first your first clients in?
Very difficult. Yes, we
because you were selling to retail as well.
We were selling to brands. We could help you buy this better, and we can buy the right stuff for you. We thought that we would get small brands to sign up, and we would help basically make a few small companies be like a medium-sized company. By getting 250 guys from 10 companies,
like kind of a smart male way of.
But it was tough. And then Sainsbury's heard about what we were doing, and we didn't know at the time, but they were running a pitch to decide who was going to run their retail media, because they'd seen what dunnhumby was doing. And they called us in for a half-hour meeting, and we explained our view that how it needed to be brand focused to be able to really get true investment, to tap into budgets that will get trial, because if you don't get trial, you can't get repeat, and you can't grow your brand. You've got to have people. My favorite bit, and I know I've banged on to you about this before, favorite bit of data in grocery is that, the average loyal family to a particular large box grocer, pretty much no family buys more than 140 or 50 different products in a whole year. And there are 40,000 products they could buy. So when you look at that, you go, getting trial is so important, because once you've been bought once, if you bought San Miguel, 33 mil, or 330 ml bottle for the first 6-pack, whatever, for the first time, you've now got a 35% chance on average across all categories of buying it again. When you bought that twice, you've got a 55% chance of buying that a third time. So we knew that we could drive enormous performance for brands and get real traction of new listings, because we could target by store. Even if you're in 300 stores and you're doing quite well, and you get rolled out to 500 stores. Well, you want to support your original 300, but you want to really outweight your media in those extra 200, because you're going to be kicked out in the next range of you if you don't get the traction. Just because you're selling in Salisbury doesn't mean you're well in Newcastle. There are people who've tried you. So you want to really outweight your activity in those extra stores to keep that. And then the buyer goes, wow, that worked really well. I'll do it in 800 stores now. So so it would work.
So then you went into Sainsbury's.
Yeah, and
is that with the Toblerone story?
Yeah, so that's one of the first campaigns from the Toblerone story. Do you want me to tell the story?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I think people have to know.
We were given it was an early client. We were given it was Kraft at the time, owned Toblerone brand, and they invited us down to Cheltenham for their brand planning day. And we were so lucky to get the opportunity to go to a brand playing day. It was like, this is amazing.
Because you were still starting.
We were still starting. We had like no clients and no money.
Was it the first year there?
It was our first year.
Wow.
And we shared a hotel room the night before, so we wouldn't be late. And we practiced. And we got there, and there's their media agency and their creative agency.
And that was early 2000, mid 2000s?
No, 2008.
Okay.
2008. And we didn't actually get it away, the campaign, for another year, because it took ages to. Well, that's part of the story, but. We were there, and the media agency were like, I don't understand what you're doing here, because, we do the media. And we're like, well, we're retail specialists, and we're seeing if we can help. And these guys have very kindly asked us to have a look at it, and we've had a look, and we've been to stores, and we think we've got an answer.
Yeah.
And then I mopped this thing on the table, and the guy literally went, if you can do that, I understand why you're in this room. And that was basically a till divider that was a Toblerone. So when you finish your shopping and you put down this thing between your shopping and the next person. Well, in Sainsbury's, they were triangular, just like a Toblerone. And the brief was to get people to be more, Toblerone to be more salient in grocery, i.e. people to think about it more. But what better way than to handle a Toblerone, for want of a better thing, so then albeit a fake plastic Toblerone. And we put Don't Forget Father's Day on there, just so it kind of was relevant to that time of year. Because that was the second largest sales. Competing at Christmas was never going to happen. We only had 40,000, and so we did this cool campaign, and it got a 95% sales uplift, and it was, it should have won like campaign of the year, because in terms of
and it didn't.
Well,
it doubled sales.
Yeah, it doubled sales, 95%. But it's fairly hard.
You have to remember the numbers. And how did you go with SMG? So you started with brand. Well, sorry, it was called Capture at the beginning.
Yes, Capture.
How did you go from there?
Well, we started as a Capture, and then Sainsbury's hired us. So we stayed as Capture. So we kind of we couldn't represent brands at that point. We were representing Sainsbury's, but we were helping. But we were still. Our ethos was still the same, to make an investment choice for brands.
So you went from doing stuff for brands to managing Sainsbury's.
Managing Sainsbury's. We had done very little for brands. Yeah. Sainsbury's came along and said, we love what you're doing, and can you do it for us? Can you integrate our service? Got it. Because you've got the online, you've got all these different people competing for budget, and we're like, if you put that in one and you treat the customer, because it's the brand is a customer.
Yeah.
Retailers are brilliant at choosing, have they got a good, better, best, cheese, bread, whatever, to satisfy their in-store customer, but they're not very good at satisfying their customer who buys their media. And the customer who buys media has become increasingly important for all retailers today as a revenue stream. So we started helping Sainsbury's, and then when we left Sainsbury's, we returned to our brand service, and then we started signing up more retailers, and that's when we separated the business, because we were representing some brands that we were also selling to.
Yeah. So you had to keep these two
separated those two parts, and now we're more than 50% of the grocery market by media revenue. Then our clients, although the teams are very separate, the teams are there to set the objectives.
It's interesting how, if you look at the business now, people would be like, oh, they're SMG, they're managing the retail media of all these big retailers. But it's interesting to hear the story, just to show that things are not like a straight line, right?
No, and it started from that obsession. Our clients are still the brands.
Yeah,
we call the retailers our partners.
At the end,
they enable us.
Yeah.
But it's ultimately the brand that's spending the dollar.
Yeah.
And therefore they are the client. And so it's having that client focus, which I think really helped. That's how we originally won Co-op, which was our first grocer post Sainsbury's. We were representing about 10 brands at the time. Bear in mind they sell 2,000, but only with which 200 have really scalable categories.
Yeah.
Tails off quite a lot after that. But we had about 10 clients. We're nearly half their revenue. Yeah. So they rang us up and we're like, why are the 10 brands you represent spending way more? We're like, well, because we help them choose the right thing.
Yeah.
And when they choose the right thing, the campaign works better. When the campaign works better, they spend more money. And it becomes higher up their cascading choices. Retailers are obsessed by, I want to get to brand budgets. Well, often, and people would criticize, say, oh, it's just trade budget. Oh, a trade budget that's quadrupled in size because trade is now more effective. It's like, it's ultimately come from, the company, the brand owner only,
and
has to spend the money.
And where was the business when like the pandemic started, for example?
Well,
You and me had never heard of each other, by the way.
Yeah, we had 125 odd people. We were totally self-financed still. We had saved cash like anything, thanks to our amazing, inspirational CFO, who was also my father, who, without him, the business wouldn't be. When we first started, he said, oh, who's your accountant? And we're like, Dad, we've got £1,000. We're here to sell something, yeah? And that, he made us conserve cash so we could.
I didn't know he was your CFO.
Our CFO for 14 years.
Wow.
So we could save, we could do the right thing by our people. We could do the right thing by our client. We were financially stable. So going into the pandemic, we had 7 figures of cash. Which, more than 2 years payroll at the time. And so we were able to say to everyone that, our number one priority is to save every job if you've chosen to work here. And I remember Joel on our first board meeting going, I'm not going to send anyone out into the workplace in the global pandemic. It's like my co-founder. Yeah. So he's now left the business earlier this year. But, he just said, I'm not going to send anyone out into the workplace. If they've chosen to work here, we'll stick by them. So it was an absolute revenue disaster because, of course, all the brands cancelled their campaigns. It was yeah, and we only get paid when the brand does the campaign. And so we actually had to do a lot of work to undo the campaigns, to stop the print and to stop the things and to not do. And so actually, it was an awful lot of.
Is that the toughest weeks in your career?
Yeah, because we got paid nothing to do a lot of work.
We
were paying it
to
do it. So it was a tough time, but I think we approached it well, and we stood by our people, and a lot of our people chose to stand by us.
And then after like the pandemic, like not after like the big lockdown and so on, we had like the retail media boom.
Yeah.
So how has that transformed the business?
Well, it's definitely helped it grow. That's we were like banging on about it before it happened. I mean, I love seeing all these super high-end consultants who charge a great deal of money for their time, putting up slides that completely rewrite the history of retail media, because it seems to have started 15 years after my career. And I was like, well,
started in 22. No?
Given that I set up the Tesco service, I set up a savings service, and now my company does most of the others in the UK, then I probably know quite a bit about it. But it's we were well positioned by keeping all our people. So we had a lot of experts that were ready to help. So very quickly after the pandemic, we picked up Boots.
Okay.
And so we'd been working with Very before that, and with Co-op before the pandemic. But we then picked up Boots, and then not long after that, Morrison's followed, and then ASDA, and then Deliveroo, and then now WHSmith in the US as well.
And I think one thing that I've always told you guys when we've hung out or whatever is that, like, I feel like the people in the business, like, I don't know, there's something special about people that work at SMG. I don't know, how did you approach that way of like hiring people that, I don't know?
I think we hired young people because we had no money, basically. And we treated them with respect. It's not rocket science what we do. If you do it with passion and care, and you respect people, and you give them opportunities to grow, and you teach them not just about marketing and not just about media, but about managing people and growing themselves and focusing on their growth. So we like to think our career is all about growth. It's not just, it's for our clients, it's our partners, it's our people, and you create that growth culture where people can grow their careers. And if you look at our management team today, the vast majority of them have been
in the business over 10 years. I think,
many of their entire careers.
Yeah.
It's I think we
What did you look for in people when you were hiring them?
mainly passion.
Yeah.
Like that sounds daft. If you can't get passionate about collecting symbols or ballet or rugby or whatever it is you're into,
Yeah.
if you're not passionate about anything,
Yeah.
how am I going to get you passionate about retail media? So for me, it's like they had to be of average smarts or better, and then we can teach them the rest and we can give them the tools. And that's when we started to develop planouts, because planouts put the knowledge, all that is in my head of all these redemption rates, all those campaign performances, all those things that my brain seems to store, and whatever I do, I can't get rid of it. That is in planouts to help people choose the right things, to help people get a better performance for their retail media.
And you said you were 120 people when you start on the and now
500.
Huh? Not bad.
Yeah,
not bad.
So we broke through 500 end of last year or early this year. So yeah. No.
What are you most excited for in terms of like the world of retail media right now?
I'm excited for now the realization of the market that in-store matters, that even with the biggest stimulator of online trade in global history, i.e. the pandemic, it only managed to double.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started my career and we first started working on Tesco.com, all the consultants and industry experts said that retail media, not retail media, the
retail
and grocery would be 20% in 5 years, and I said it'd be 5 in 20, and that was about 2020. So it was about 6. Yes. So I was a grad, but I understood the data. There were way too many barriers. The delivery slots were too long. I don't want to wait for another gas man, a 4-hour delivery slot. Obviously, a lot of those, as scale has built, a lot of those things, now you can get a 15-minute slot or whatever it is.
Yeah, but like
get it in 15 minutes.
But it's also, I think, that underestimating the people liking going to the store and choosing what they eat, especially.
And also completely misjudging the nation, that, when you look at economic stacks, they're quite frankly scary. When you look at the number of people in the UK that have more than £1,000 savings, it's less than half. It was seriously. It's
like around
that. It's not a lot. You look at it and you go, we're in a bubble where we work in a warm office and we work with amazing brands, and the reality is most people are not. Huge volumes of categories are bought on deal. Most people are buying the best value.
Totally.
So it's so I was like, it's going to be. I think the in-store is having a rebirth, because if you want to sell cheese or ice cream or whatever, then that's where the volume gets picked up. And the people are also, I think, they're starting to realize that actually that's where, when you've got a big box grocer, that's actually where you can drive incremental with retail media in low penetration categories. I mean low aisle penetration in terms of how many times when I go grocery shopping, do I go down the frozen aisle? Do I go down the health and beauty aisle? And I'm not going to go down the health and beauty aisle, but if I know that Colgate is a third off and I go, I like Colgate, then it might have Oral-B on half price on the end, but I still go, well, you know what? I like Colgate, it's a third off, I'll go down the aisle. And that's driving a sale that you wouldn't otherwise get. So it's kind of figuring out, and that's why I love in-store audio. Massive fan of in-store audio, because that enables people that are just in to get a sandwich for lunch, or to
when they
pick up a bunch of flowers to take to a party, or a bottle of wine to take to a party, and they hear that the ice cream is half price. Like, oh, I'll take a tub of ice cream too. So that it really drives incremental sales. One of the really effective channels at doing that, but massively underrated by traditional media agencies, because it's not a proper radio station. So it doesn't have audited figures of it, but it's got how many transactions. So do you believe 1,000 people that fill in a survey saying I listen to this, or do you believe the number of people
that actually go into the store? Yeah.
It's
last one. I don't know if you listen to my podcast very often.
Sometimes.
I won't make you kiss it, but we have a famous last question, which is, what's the one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Don't worry. I think, and I see that in a lot of young people today, and I think the speed of communication and digitization has only enhanced anxiety, I guess is the word for it now. And I think that that is a massive problem. It eats away at you. But if you're passionate and you work hard and you do something you enjoy, you'll have a lot of fun doing it. And I think that when you do something well and people appreciate it and people say thank you, and I always kind of, when a client goes, "Oh, that was amazing, the team did it really well," I said, please, will you do me a favor and can you drop them a note to just
it's nice.
just because when people feel appreciated, they work so much harder from you.
I know. It's sort of like if they make a mistake, which everybody's gonna do one, they don't dwell on them so much, right?
Yeah. So don't worry, find something you enjoy and work hard at it, and you'll get pleasure out of that, and you'll build a successful career. But also network. Sorry, I mean it's just network's not just internal but external.
No, for certain.
Not just external rather, but internal. Get to know people. The people that I knew when I was selling coupons, individual account, are now marketing directors. Yeah, so it's
Totally.
Don't ignore people. Be good to people. Be kind to people. Help people.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much. It was a lot of fun. And thanks to our audience for tuning in. We'll see you in the next episode of the FMCG guys.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from Dwyer Partners SL, doing business as the FMCG guys, or the individual author, host, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by Dwyer Partners SL. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Dwyer Partners SL expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we presented in this podcast.